there has to be a secret to becoming a successful author, right? And if I wanted to know what it was, I would talk to some other successful authors. So today I have 5 writing tips from successful authors to offer you to help you write your book. If you've watched this broadcast for long, you know that I tell you all about the need for you to keep writing, to find your writing process. But there has to be something in it if successful authors say, this is what my top advice would be for someone who wants to write a book. So 5 tips for you to try on for size as you're looking for what works for you in your writing process. So what I think, and they are listed to me in order of importance. So to me, the number 1 tip, and this comes from William Faulkner and Stephen King: read a lot. Read your genre. Read other books. Read prize winners. Read what other people find good. Read a lot. You should be reading. I have talked to a few writers who are like, well, I don't have time to read. And Stephen King, I think, kind of bluntly says it as, if you don't have time to read, then don't bother trying to write. Because you learn a lot about writing by reading. Second tip comes from Jack Hart and Jerry Jenkins, and maybe more, but I just saw it in Jerry Jenkins' email last week that he sent me. Trim the fat. Cut unnecessary words. When you're going back and revising and editing your manuscript before you get ready to publish it or submit it to an agent for publishing, trim the fat. Don't have a whole bunch of unnecessary words that you don't need. He raised his hand to wave at her as she left. Okay, what do we wave with? Oh, our hand. So you don't have to say he raised his hand to wave at her. He waved at her when she left. The end. See how I trimmed a bunch of words out? That's the kind of things they're talking about. Unnecessary words that don't serve the story. And yes, Stephen King would tell you they are adverbs. Other people would tell you they were adjectives, and that you should use the strongest nouns and verbs that you can, and I agree that you should. But the other thing you have to remember is that you match the narrative voice that you're writing in. And sometimes they might not use the fancy $10 word. They might have more snark, and they might have quirky things that they say. And that's what you would write. That's how you would write then. Okay, tip number 3 comes from Jodi Picoult and Louis L'Amour. Just start writing, even when it doesn't flow. Professional writers have to write whether they feel like it or not. And successful authors don't feel like it every day. I promise you, they don't. But they still show up at the office or wherever they write when it's their writing time, and they sit down and they churn out some words. They might not be fantastic, but there's words on the page, which means there's words they can edit, there's words they can revise, there's words they can perfect. But you can't edit a blank page. I believe that's Picoult's saying. And Louis L'Amour says, if you want the water to flow, you have to turn on the faucet. Meaning, if you're not actually writing, then how can you expect inspiration to come and help you be more inspired to write or come flowing out with your words? You must turn on that tap first. So, number 4 comes from Anne Lamott. And I know other people have said it, but I'm using her direct quote, which is, perfectionism is an oppressor and an enemy of creativity. So I am a perfectionist. I'd like to say I'm a recovering perfectionist, but I slide back more than I move away from perfectionism, unfortunately. Because for a writer, it's not a very good thing to be, because it's never going to be perfect, my friend. You can write it, rewrite it, revise it, edit it, till you're sick, send it off to a professional, have them edit it, blah, blah, through 3 rounds is what your professional publishing company will do. And you have it proofread, put it out there, and then when you pick up the book and read it sometime in the future, although I don't generally pick up and read my stories, except for to read excerpts at a signing event or something, you'll go, oh, that's not that great. I should have done it differently. And one reason is because you're always improving as a writer. But the other reason is you're a perfectionist. It will never be done until you say it's good enough and ship it. So don't let perfectionism keep you from getting your stories out into the world. And last, but certainly not least, even if it is number 5 on this list, comes from F. Scott Fitzgerald and Ray Bradbury. Writing is hard. Whoever told you writing a book would be easy had never written a book. Or if they had, it was a fluke, or their book wasn't that good. I don't know what to tell you. But writing is hard. But you still need to keep learning how to write better, keep writing those drafts, writing the words, and keep submitting your stories. Bradbury is one of the authors who has a huge, long list of rejections before he was accepted, along with Stephen King, along with J.K. Rowling. So those are names I know you recognize as multi-million-dollar successfully published authors. So writing was hard for them some days, but they kept on learning how to make it better, how to get better. They kept on writing even when it was hard, and they kept submitting even in the face of the rejections. So if you want to be a successful author, you want to finish your books, try out these tips. And if you have heard other tips and you have run up against 1 or 2 or 5 that you felt were extremely useful for you in your writing life, I'd love for you to drop those in the comments. And if I get enough, I'll do another episode later about additional writing tips gleaned from my own viewers. And I would love to do that. So, top 5 writing tips. It's time to go write your book, my friend.